ourselves as the church, those who claim the name of Christ, we find ourselves looking at the future in which we are all strange fruit. Why would Jesus of Nazareth invite us into a lifestyle that would put us in direct opposition to the powers that we live under? Maybe Peter, maybe Andrew, maybe some of the other disciples had no idea of this calculation when Jesus walked on by. They heard, "Follow me," but they did not know that follow me would be the way of the cross. They knew follow me would lead me away from what I knew, but it would bring me into a life I could not see. If I was Peter, would have not understand that I was being chosen by the vine so that I could bring forth fruit. But not a temporal fruit, not a fruit that you find in the grocery store. This is a paradoxical fruit. It is a fruit that lasts. Why are we bearing fruit that is supposed to last, that seems like we are unable to reconcile? We find ourselves seemingly in the place of Nicodemus, who came to Jesus at night, seeking to understand which way was up. Jesus said, "You must be born again." Nicodemus looked up, looked around, looked down, could not perceive what was being perceived to him and what was given to him. What was being given to Nicodemus and what's being given to all of us today is the invitation to be strange to a world that is estranged from God. If we will not be strange to a world that will not recognize God, then our witness about God is superficial, tangential, not even secondary, even tertiary. As we pass on myths and stories about a God that we have not encountered because we've been too cowardly in facing the reality and the invitation of the strangeness of that fruit from Nazareth. We find ourselves, my sister and brother, trying to figure out, how do we reconcile a world that treats us strange, a world that is estranged from God, a country that treats those that are of its soil as estranged. Yet God invites us this morning to a revolutionary act. 1 John speaks to this particular and peculiar power that is latent in those who are strange fruit. The writer in 1 John, borrowing the energy from the fourth gospel, borrowing some of the themes of the fourth gospel, but pushing some of those themes a little further with his own pen, is saying to the church who was suffering under schism, there are some in that church who do not believe that Jesus came back, resurrected. They were of the Gnostic belief. The Gnostics believed that knowledge or gnosis would save them. They thought the more they would learn, the more esoteric the mystery, the more they were able to perceive and peer into the perilous darkness of ambiguity, they would be able to understand God's ways, because Jesus could not be fully God and fully man and have resurrected. So they believed that Jesus was an illusion, an apparition, a ghost, a physical figment of our imagination. And so there were some who had a somewhat belief in this strange fruit. Their beliefs weren't strange enough to grasp the fullness of God in flesh. So as they were wrestling with what it meant to be Christian, the writer of 1 John says, Jesus' commandments are not burdensome, for whatever is born of God conquers the world. And this lies our paradox, in this lies our problem, but in this lies our promise as well. Do you have the courage to conquer the world? We have found ourselves victimized by the world. We find ourselves responding to the world. We find ourselves being strange and estranged, wrestling with what it means to be part of society. But the question that the text raises for us today is simple. Do you want to conquer the world that is trying to conquer you? Because if you have no desire to conquer the world, this faith is not for you. This is a faith of conquering the world and bringing those powers and those dominions under God's control. But how do we do that? We do that by bearing fruit that lasts. Because if you bear fruit that lasts, you're bringing and manifesting in the material, the immaterial. You're bringing the eternal into time. There's no way that time can continue to fight eternity if we continue to bear fruit. But oh, my sisters and brothers, some of us have become weary in our efforts to conquer the world. Our faith has worn and it's weary. Our attitude has been shaped by the failures and the frustrations of our journey. Yes, even on this Mother's Day, some of us have lost the resiliency to fight at times because moments and days like this seem to conquer us. But there is great power in this word today. There is great agency in this world today because it is our responsibility to take the pulpit with us so that where our feet stand is God's space to bring about the miraculous. Sometimes, if I'm allowed to be honest with you, I wonder, why did God bring me to this place? No, not to this church, but why did God bring me to Washington, D.C., Alexandria, Virginia? Why did God bring me to a place that is so close to worldly power, yet seemingly so far from God's heart? Why would God bring me to a place in which people worship the idols of political parties, pundits, and philosophies? Why would God bring me to a beltway that encases the paganism of our day? Why would God bring me to teach seminarians about preaching in a world that seems to care less and less about the risen Savior? But could it be that God chooses the foolish things in this world to confound the wise? Could it be that the things that we thought we know, we do not know? Could it be the paths that we thought we would trod, we did not trod? And could it be that we are being invited to shape this world for the glory of Jesus Christ? Oh, I know it's scary to be strange fruit. You're looking at a black man in America. Oh, I can understand. But the only hope we have is to be strange, to produce the things that last: connectivity, conciliation, love. Because it is in these generative forces that are often exemplified in Mother's Day that help us to get a fuller sense of the God of the universe. and trying to get a handle on the foolish mystery of God and flesh, allowing his own creation to tear him down in order so that God could raise them back up. This is our prayer. This is our time. I dare you. Christ commands you to conquer the world.